any? And like to start with the first item on the agenda, which is public comment. And if there is anyone who is not one of our liaison or committee members, we have a place for them. But if there's anyone on who would like to make say something, make a comment, Jacqueline will recognize you and you can address the committee.
I don't see any hands raised. If you want to just give them 1 minute. Yep, no hands are raised, so I think we're good.
Okay, thank you. The next is the approval of the minutes from last week. I have read them. I did not have any changes that I needed to make. Were there any other changes required for the meeting to the minutes from last week? Can I get a motion to approve the minutes as written?
Motion to approve.
Second? I need a second.
I'll second.
You pick, Jacqueline. Anybody, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Sounds like it's unanimous. And so the minutes are approved. That's 2. I know, Austin, you're on, but we might have some briefer comments from Bill McMinn and Erin if she's on, but I don't believe she's among those who are on. Is that correct, Jacqueline?
Yeah, she's not on. She said she was going to try to, but I don't see her. Yeah, so that was why she had sent that email, because she wasn't sure if she'd be able to get on.
And Scott, again, I don't see you, but I know you're on. The message I got from Jacqueline was that you would present if you would talk if there was time. I would like to hold you. I would like to say that I'd like to hold you over to your date of the 28th. That we do have Austin, and then there are numerous changes to the RFP, and I believe it's going to take most of our time to do that. I guess we'll have to see how that goes. But Scott, would it be okay if you could you're certainly present for Austin's or any part of the meeting that you want, but I would like to give you your time to yourself, and when we would not be rushed, and do it on the 28th. Is that okay?
Got a raised hand by Scott.
Okay.
That's absolutely, I don't know if you guys can see me or not. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, yes.
That's absolutely fine. I wanted us to participate in the meeting as far as just watching it tonight, seeing what you're gonna ask from Austin. That gives me a little bit of an idea of how I can prepare. I thought if it was convenient for you to ask me tonight, that was up to you. And if not, I'm more than happy to wait until 2 weeks. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Scott. Thanks for being flexible. So actually, that takes us to the liaison committee remarks, and I'd like to turn it over to Bill. Bill, I've got 3 things down that you have: the doors and signs, which I believe is going, the lights and cameras, and the removal of the junk out of the building.
Okay, so I'm ready. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
So I did walk the site with Mark Sklanka, and we did review the stuff that's in there. Yes, it definitely should be removed. I don't think it was as much as we anticipated. We didn't really feel that there was any urgency to it. So we did not do anything other than walk the site and discuss it and look at it. We set no timeframes or put together any proposals or get any costs. That was on the material that we saw, the furniture. The doors and signage, some of the signage went up today. They were looking at the doors and making a material list, and hope to be working on that in the next couple of weeks. The lights, I met with Peggy, and we decided that we would take the lights and the security system, the cameras, and put that in one of our security accounts, and that we take it off the committee's list, and that we would manage that, internally. So the lights, I have ordered some lights. We're going to look at the existing lights on the building and see which ones we can retrofit and fix and make work without spending a lot of money. And I met with our IT person, Art Sickle, and we came up with a list of cameras, and we're going to put the cameras in using Comcast and get a service. And it's going to be a very low end, very inexpensive. We're thinking 1 to 2 years. Until you start construction, we assume that you'll put a much more sophisticated one in, if at all, in the future. So that is our plan. We don't really have a schedule. I ordered the light fixtures. As soon as they come in, I'll start getting them up and working. And same with I think the cameras might take a little longer. Getting the cameras and the contractor out there is going to be a little more difficult. Plus, we got to get Comcast out there to bring a service in. So that the lights will happen sooner than the cameras, but I'll be working on it and I'll keep you updated.
You're on mute, Joe.
And the junk out of the door, is it, one of the things that was suggested is we use some of the employees from town employees for doing that in a slow period. Was that still a possibility, or would we just need to hire a contractor and do it?
If you're asking my opinion, I think that we should hire a contractor to do it. I don't know if there's a slow period anymore in other departments. They don't work for me. I don't have any real town employees. I have myself and Raquel. Everyone else that works for me works for the schools, and there's no downtime or any slow period for them. So I don't have the ability to do that, and I can't speak for other departments.
Okay, then we'll leave it.
Do we need to get someone from DPW to tell us whether it's possible for them or not?
So if you're asking me,
Yeah. Your opinion.
my opinion,
Yeah.
I just don't think that's something that, the DPW, they do roads and highways and stuff. And I don't think there's enough guys to do all the stuff they have on their list. And I would say the same with Austin's guys, but Austin's going to be on tonight, so you could ask him directly. I can't speak for them. But my guess would be that they have enough on their plate already, but I don't know that.
I know we have no necessary time frame, but do you have if we were to hire a contractor and we were to take our time, there'd be no rush. When would the soonest it could be done?
So if you have no
normal
drive,
course.
yeah, a month over the winter. I mean, I could get guys there tomorrow if I had to, but so that's open-ended. If I say to the contractor and I decide who I'm going to hire and how I'm going to get it done first, I'll pay for the contract, I'll get the dumpster, and then I'll hire. I haven't really figured out who the most economical people are to hire. That's the problem. I can hire a company tomorrow, 2 companies I'm thinking of, moving companies or, general contractors that have laborers. I haven't really priced it out or figured out who's the cheapest and what they have going. There is actually a, landscaping company I can think of as well that, right before winter, before the snow comes, they usually have a downtime. So maybe after leaf season, which is coming to an end, I might be able to talk to them. So that might be the most economic way. I just thought of that. So I haven't really come up with a plan or a time frame. But if you have one, you tell me what it is, I can meet it.
Tell you what, Bill, you've got the doors and signs going. The lights and cameras are next. Just put the next thing on your list after you've been through those 2 things. That
Yeah,
reasonable?
let's say my goal will be to get it done by the 1st of the year.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be where I would go to, Bill, is either landscapers or roofers, usually the ones that slower in the winter, but
Yeah, no, I thought of the landscapers just now as I was talking to you. I was thinking moving company, and I definitely have a contractor that we use. But you know, we don't need a carpenter to be dragging that stuff out.
Right.
Okay, thank you, Bill.
You got it.
Al, do you have anything to add? I presume the Collier's contract was signed after the meeting last week?
It passed unanimously.
Okay. And is it signed and out the, history, or is it still circulating somewhere?
I'm afraid I don't have the answer to that, but maybe we can ask Public Works to step in and get it done. I think as far as your committee is concerned, Joe, the contract's approved.
Yeah, okay. That's where we're at. We were that way last week. We already had that on our last meeting, but
Yeah, it was signed, Joe and Al, by the town. Jacqueline sent it to my office, and then I think we were having the division director sign it, I believe, today on our end. So thank you, Al, for your support.
thank you. Any other comments from the any members, or any comments from the from anyone else in the that are liaisons? If we hearing none, we'll move, and Austin, you're on. Does Austin get promoted here, Jacqueline?
Yep, just moved him up.
I can see you, Austin.
I'm here. How are you?
Good, thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
We this is open-ended. We haven't. I have a couple of questions prepared, but we really came to hear you, and what it is, what you're anticipating that for Beach and Rec's role in running and occupying the building, the community center building.
Sure. So I think, the role of my department and myself will be to oversee all of the programming, rentals, the day-to-day operations of the community center once opened. I think that's what the charge will be to my group. So making sure we schedule it appropriately, get information out there to groups to book the facility, staff it appropriately. And, as far as programming, just getting the programming in there that the community wants. And we're finding that out through the advisory committee. We are putting out a survey in the next 2 weeks. So on Thanksgiving, the survey will go out at the turkey trot to ask the public really what types of programming are wanted, which will then help us determine, room layouts and what's needed to then give to you all as the building committee to inform you of what the public is looking for. And that'll be important for me to go off of when we're booking and scheduling programming, is making sure it's what the community wants, and sort of moving on from there.
Did you say you were going to hand it out at the turkey trot or the link?
So at the turkey trot, we are handing out like a QR code on a postcard with a link as well, but then it will go out to the masses right at around that same time too.
Okay, so it's not just focused on one.
No, it'll go in every form of media we have.
Okay.
Put the link out.
Okay, thank you.
Is there software that do you have the software to do what you're talking about here? Or is
Yes,
that
sir.
something that gonna have to be developed between now and then?
All done. The survey, was developed by the committee. We used a software that was compatible with our tech department. It's really professional, is able to provide us in great detail, what people are saying, how many are responding, how they're ranking, what they want to do. It's going to be a very informative informational survey for us to use to make sure we're doing what the community wants, and then passing that on to you all.
How are you going to keep that? Is there a way to ensure that people who are responding are from Madison? Because at the Turkey Trot, a large portion of those people are not Madison residents.
Yep, so you have, yes, so you have to give your zip code when signing in. So I think it's important to get information from non-residents too, because non-Madison residents are going to be using our community center as equally as much as residents are. But there will be with the zip code, we'll be able to tell if they're a resident. And we could separate out the answers that way too. So we could have Madison answers and non-resident folks as well.
Actually, my question was a slightly different direction, but I like that. I like the answer you gave, but actually the question was this, the software for the scheduling of the building. What is it that you'll have or need to schedule to actually do what you said you were going to do, which was schedule the building, have the right rooms in the right places, have the right times, and allow people access to be able to, to a front end, so that people can actually, who want to use it, can go in and schedule themselves or schedule through you.
So I think it would be important to schedule through us. And yes, we do have the software. We have our software we use is called RecTrack, and we use it for everything we do here at the rec department. So all of our programs, all of our rentals go through that system. So I think, currently, if somebody wants to use a space in town, they fill out the form and email it to us, and then we correspond, collect the fee, and tell them they're good to go or not good to go, or offer alternatives to what they've asked for. I think that correspondence is important. Being able to book it on your own and just show up, I don't think really works well. And I think you need that interface with staff to make sure that everything is completely up to date and there's no internal plans for rooms. But yes, we do have the technology and the software to do that already, so that will not be at an additional cost.
Hey, Joe, I had a couple questions for Austin.
Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, Austin, how are you been?
Hey, Dave, how are you?
Good. I guess touching back on what was in the proposal or the concepts, the square footage that was in kind of room layout that we had in the concepts, are you still in alignment with that, Austin, at this time?
At this time, yes. I think when we get the survey back, that will help us and educate us a little more. But I think, Colliers did a great job, and, the rooms are what they are, the sizes are what they are. Our beach and rec offices being on the main level, I think is important. That will be, will be the first, people that folks see when they walk in, to make sure that people are going in the right direction. Any questions they have, support they need will be available right as they walk in the main level. And that will also, our offices are right next to the social lounge, to the gymnasium, where a lot of the students will be. So we'll be able to, have access to them and really see what's going on. Yeah, I think size is okay right now.
Okay, yeah, I think that makes sense. The second thing, going back to your programming, and you probably maybe haven't thought about this too much, would you plan on having summer programming there too, like classes and club, activities like you do currently at town campus?
Yeah, so currently our two programming spaces we have are the surf club main room, which isn't really conducive to much. We have the upper level of Memorial Town Hall that we book out for, town organizations and committee rentals and card games. And then we have the town campus gym. So yes, summer programming will take place at the community center. Summer camp, if that's the direction you were going, I think is important to have at the surf club. People expect to be able to go swimming, and we have the facilities necessary to host that.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, because I was just thinking from our side, if we needed to plan on some outdoor spaces, if you're going to have some classes or, activities for kids. So, but if you're planning on the surf club, obviously that's a great choice.
Right, but I think the answer to your question though is yes, we will program the facility both in the inside and outside all year round. And there's some kids that don't do summer camp and they want to do a couple hour something, and we don't have a place to really do that in the summer. So this would be an alternative for us to be able to use for things like that.
Yeah, I know from having, kids in the high school, once the school closes, there's not a place to house them, right, for a couple hours for activities. So, so it's going to be really good for the community. That's all I had. Thanks, Austin.
You got it.
I had a follow-up to that, Austin. The little leagues and soccer, well, I don't know if I guess we don't do soccer down there, but Little League and other people who use the fields, the other groups that use the fields, is that programmed through you, or is that programmed independently? And how will that mix when the community center opens?
So we reserve the fields. So all the fields are under my department, but the youth sports organizations like Little League, Madison Youth Soccer, Madison Youth Football, Madison Youth Lacrosse are all their separate entities than the town, but they all reserve field space through us. So you have Little League, travel baseball, both use the academy fields as well as T-ball. So I think that will be something we'll have to discuss. Hopefully the fields will, still be available. We haven't talked about that yet, I don't think. But it's important, those fields, we do not have enough fields in town to hold everybody. And, losing fields is really not something that I can, approve of. I think, we use those fields pretty much every day for Little League. And
Yeah, no, I think our thought is to keep the fields, but there's a potential of reorienting them a little bit so that maybe the backstop that's currently very close to the building might get, we look at the whole grass space unto itself and seeing if there's a way of doing two fields, but in a different direction, so to speak.
yeah, that's great. Thank you. So if we don't lose any field space and reorienting it is the way to go, then I'm on board for that.
Yeah, that was kind of where I was going, Austin. Obviously, I'm the VP of baseball for Little League, so I do a lot of the coordination effort with Austin's group for the fields. And they do an awesome job of keeping our baseball fields in town up to par. I mean, they're the best in the area as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, to Austin's point, we have a field matrix and we work with Madison Travel. So between softball and Little League and Madison Travel, spring and fall, those fields are used up. In the summertime, we do give them back a little bit to the town and they use them for other things, but definitely those fields are used prominently. And then if there's some additional space after parking, that's kind of where I was going, Austin, for moving the playground or having, a tennis court or pickleball or something like that, potentially. So.
And so we do have, speaking of the playground, we do have funding through ARP set aside for putting in a new playground. So we're going to hold off on doing that until, we all get together and figure that out. I do have to replace the flooring at the playground. We're going to do that probably over the winter, but all that can be used no matter where we have the field, the playground.
Joe, can I ask you a question? To Mark. Oh, you're on mute. I'm not good at.
Sure, Mark, go ahead.
Thanks. Austin, or I heard something about reorienting the fields. I don't recall, Austin, during the programming or planning, discussing reorienting the fields. Is that something new? Because I think I'm looking at the RFQ or P, which we'll talk about later, and that's not referenced in here. Should I reference a study to reorient the fields?
That was just brought up tonight by the committee. That was not in the original plan.
Hey,
So,
Mark, oh, go ahead, Joan.
so I think the thought is that the backstop on one of them is so close to that building, and if there's a way, since like you said, there's going to be funds to do the playground, it kind of makes sense to have the playground closer to the building if there are people in the building and then coming out. And I think one of the thoughts that I having walked the space would be to be kind of like, we absolutely need 2 fields. Is this the best design for those fields? And if we do want to reorient it, this would be the time to do it, is my point, I guess.
Is the
and
concern,
I
Joan,
think-
the balls hitting the windows and smashing them?
Yeah, that's not so good. But Mark, I think we had at one of our committee meetings had looked at one of the proposals from one of the developers that you had.
Mhm.
And I believe they had like an access road or continuing that road behind is it the Meeting House Lane? Continuing that and then having parking obviously off of that. So you would reorient the field so the backstops were kind of facing each other, Austin. So kind of where the playground is now, that would be the backstop for Academy School or whatever we call it. And then the church field would stay the same.
Because you can protect, and I think the original thought was to put up some sort of screening over the windows to protect the windows from getting hit. But
They used to have it.
yeah,
Yeah,
So,
I was back there. You can, that's pretty well rotted. You give it a pull and it just tears right off. But
Yeah.
I think if you were to provide any sort of access, if you're gonna make a driveway or something in there potentially, Mark, there's not enough distance between the back of the building and that backstop. Again, we're probably getting too deep into it now, but.
well, no, I
I
think
think that was part of the traffic plan, though. I think we do have a traffic plan in the RFP, right?
we do have a traffic study that'll be required. That's really more for the parking, but again, what I want to know is, if there's going to be a study of the reorientation of the fields, we're going to have to note that in the RFQ/P. So the architects know they've got a, in addition to the building and needing the programming of the building, that looking at the fields is also part of the scope.
But I don't think it's a need, Mark, right? If the architects come back with a design or a concept that we all agree on and we relocate one of the backstops, we'd probably go along with that, right, Joe? At this time, I don't think we're planning on redoing fields.
I think what it impacts is the traffic plan and the parking. Because if the fields stay where they are, you can't use that lane between the backstop and the school as an access point. Whereas even if you just move the backstop 10 feet up, I don't know if that's even possible, but the traffic study, the traffic plan may be different, will be different if you could have a lane there and parking on the other side of the building and access in both directions. I think that's what, Mark, and I think that's what what should be somehow included when we're doing the traffic, when we're doing the traffic planning. That's when it would come up.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think this is also, Austin, it's going to depend on sort of the breadth of the types of programming we're going to do. I know in Guilford, they sometimes host like town hall meetings at the community center, and they don't have enough parking. It attracts so many people that it just floods all of the parking around there. Now, maybe we could work something out with the church next door and coordinate with them, but I don't know if we want to rely on that. And, we want to be able to say, hey, if we want to be able to host events like that, where we could have hundreds of people potentially coming, and we've got a theater there, we'll have shows and stuff. I think we've got to make sure that our parking plan and our egress and access account for that amount of traffic versus, just a few small programs here and there.
I agree. There definitely will be concerts and theater productions and educational lectures that will attract, a couple hundred people, if not more. And our relationship with St. Margaret's and the Congregational Church, that's something that we'll have to, ask them, on certain days, can we expand parking into their lots? They're usually great with that. They're great neighbors. And, I don't think that will be a problem, but that will be something we'll need to address.
Yeah, I'm a member of the First Congregational Church, and the only thing that does, though, it somewhat limits the hours and the times you can use the community center. If you need a lot of parking on a Sunday morning, the churches, that wouldn't fit very well with the churches. But on a Friday night, it's not as much of an issue.
Right, and that'll be, part of the scheduling will be, if someone does need to rent a space on a Sunday morning, we have to, ensure that, they don't start till after 12 o'clock when the church services are over. And that'll be something that will be easily handled during the scheduling process.
Can we rely on the senior center parking?
That was
I've never looked at how big that space is, but there is some parking up at the senior center additionally.
Yeah, it's pretty big. We do host events there on weekends and community meetings and such. But again, it's just scheduling and making sure we don't overlap. Giving folks the most access to parking. It's just scheduling it properly.
Sounds like parking will be a scarce resource that will drive some of will drive the schedule to some extent.
I think too, Joe, it depends how in depth you want to get into this traffic study. If you looked at potentially making Academy one way and you had angled parking, street parking, you could pick up a ton of parking on Academy. Something that should be looked at, especially if you extend that road behind Meeting House Lane, extend it out to Academy. There's potential here. It just will take a little bit of effort and design and getting people to agree also. But
Also, I had a
that
couple of-
church lane, you mean? Because Academy has parking, the church, in front of the church area, right? Whichever those names are.
Meeting
Around
House
the
Lane-
green.
Meeting House Lane goes right in front of the church. and
Okay,
it would continue through Lee Academy, or past between Lee Academy, and it would probably go right through the playground or something like that. That would be the extension of Meeting House Lane. And right now, that's where there's some porta potties in there, and it's kind of a dead end alley. And then, so that would be the extension.
yeah, it doesn't align great. You'd have to do obviously some alignment of the road through there, but you could make it work.
Do other committee members have a question, any questions? I have a couple, but I'll see if anybody. Austin, in terms of, I think you already answered this, but I'll ask it specifically. Your location in the building, do you feel that that's appropriate and you can adequately monitor the traffic and the people coming in, the people going out from the location you have, which I believe is it's next to where the atrium and the elevator is going to be here, and which will probably be if the parking is there, that would probably be the main entrance to the building.
I agree. Yeah, I think having the offices there right next to the main entrance is key. in terms of, if we decide to sign people in and out, how to, escort people to the rooms that they've rented, be the, sort of the face of the community center. Being in that area is very important. People having easy access to the answer or the questions they have immediately as they walk in. So they're not sort of just wandering around. They know, signage will be important. But I think being on the main level, next to the gymnasium, next to the lobby area, is pretty important for us.
And so that the follow-up question then is, do we need to restrict entry in other areas through other doors? Because there are going to be exits, many exits, and there are other, possible entrances. Would you believe? Would you recommend that we restrict entrance through those additional entry points or exit points?
I think so. I think having one main entrance is a good way to monitor who's in the building. I don't think allowing folks to enter through multiple areas is good for security.
Austin, what are your thoughts about, weekend use of the building? Would you want people still coming through the main entrance, or would you want like the basketball court access for like park and rec basketball activities to come through, a door that goes right into the gym?
So I think, security is important, and knowing who's in the building is important. I think having everyone enter through one main entrance is the way to go, unless there's special events. So like if there's a play in the auditorium, maybe we can enter through the main level entrance on the Academy School side, on the Meeting House Lane side.
That's assuming that it's ADA compliant.
Right, which it's not right now.
Well, I know not now, but I mean, that would have to be made ADA compliant for that to be used. And the other thing, just to the point, we don't know where Beach and Rec will ultimately go, other than it would be near the main entrance. We have no idea which architect will be selected and how they're going to orient the building. We know what we've seen through the previous study, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to be the end solution.
Yeah,
but knowing that it needs to be near the main entrance will be important to dictate to the architects.
Yeah. Yes, and that space that is penciled in on the previous study, that may not even exist in the if an architect has a different floor plan.
I just think it's important to have that sort of size space and just views of the main level. So windows are important in that office space to be able to see out into the lobby and the social lounge area. But yeah, I think if you reorient that office but I think that number of offices and the location is good for me.
That was going to be my question, because I know you guys are utilizing some space down at the surf club now, correct? Is your plan to move into this building full time, or to use both spaces?
I think we'll use both spaces. It's important to have. We learned this year how important it is to have staff, full-time town staff here at the surf club to interact with the public, to maintain the summer staff that we have. So we're going to continue to use this space at the surf club, but having offices at Academy will be as equally as important as the one down here.
Okay, so you feel like the amount of space that we have set aside at Academy is appropriate given the space that you currently occupy at Surf Club?
Yeah, so they'll
be smaller or larger.
Yeah, I think it's about the same size. So we have right now it's myself, Matt and Carrie and Anna, our receptionist, And then we do have in the budget to add the recreation superintendent position once the academy opens up. So, you know, there's 3 office spaces in there now with a conference room. You know, I really, in the perfect world, there'd be 4 offices there. And if we needed a conference room space, we would just go off into the building and find one for ourselves.
Another-
Thank you.
Oh, can
No,
so what
Diane?
has changed that when this plan was drawn up for the, to go to the referendum, that you needed the space, you were gonna have an academy, and at that point, you weren't gonna be at Surf Club. And now you're gonna be at the Surf Club occupying some of that space, and you still need the same amount of space at Academy. What's changed?
The only thing that's changed is we now have offices year-round at the Surf Club to help the public while they're here in the summer. I need to have office space at Academy to supervise, to maintain, you know, programming spaces, to have staff there to interact with the public, interact with instructors, set up breakdown rooms, which will be happening constantly throughout the day. The plan all along was to have office space at Academy School. That has not changed at all.
Right, but why would the amount of space be the same if some of your staff is going to be staying at the Surf Club?
I need to have an equal amount of space. There's the same amount of people, and we each have our own office space. I think that's important for, you know, staff morale, and to have someone be able to have their own space to keep all of their, you know, belongings and files and everything they need to operate. I am not of the mindset to give up this space at Academy School. And I will argue that until the building is built, that I need that office space there. If you want us to be able to provide programs for the community.
I'm not suggesting that you don't have space there. I'm suggesting that you're doubling the amount of space that you had from when you were at town campus is my understanding. If you're having the same amount at Academy as you have at the Surf Club, and before you were all at town campus, I don't know if I'm understanding it, but it seems like when the plan was put in for Academy, you were going to get so many square feet. Now you have that many square feet at the Surf Club, and you are saying you need that amount of square footage at Academy, which would be doubling it. It seems.
It is doubling it, but I need the office space to provide for the community. If we don't have offices or enough space to put all of our staffing at Academy School, like in the winter, things aren't as bustling and as they are in the spring, summer, and fall at the Surf Club. So moving the majority of staff over there would be the right thing to do. But, you know, having offices in both locations, so we're not having to borrow from Peter to pay Paul and having to book a room out and take things away from the public. I just don't see how we can't have offices in both locations and be able to provide the services needed for the community.
I guess as a follow-up question, like, would you have the entire staff at Surf Club and or at Academy, or is the plan to sort of split them? So maybe you only need a smaller amount of space in each facility, and, you know, people could kind of use, maybe you have 2 offices at Surf Club and 2 offices at Academy, and you kind of use the space that is right for that staff member at the time. That, Eileen, if I'm kind of following your line of questioning that.
So I think it's 900 square feet. If I'm being charged with running the building, I need to have access to that 900 square feet. This is what the community was promised when they voted on it, that Beach and Rec would have this area as office space. It's, you know, a minuscule portion of the building. And, you know, I think that's just where I stand. I need that spot. I need that space, whether I have one person or 5 people in there. I need to have an office that everyone can go to. That's where I stand. If that's something you want to change.
Couple of things I'd like to add before, I might help you out here for a second, Austin. First of all, there's going to be incremental work required for the incremental demands on Beach and Rec for the community center. Whatever amount of space they have in the surf club, if that serves the surf club at least certain amount of time, they'll be overlapped. But the work at the community center is incremental to what they're doing, what Beach and Rec is doing now. There's also, from talking to some of the powers that be in the town, the surf club is due for an overhaul too, and that's probably going to be sometime after Academy. So there may be, Boston may have to be moving people back and forth based on responsibilities, based on incremental workload, and based on the fact that there's, Academy's not built yet, and the surf club's going to be under construction, sometime immediately after or around the time that Academy opens. So I see this as a possible savings in the future, but I can't imagine giving up that space at the moment. That space is not just for what Beach and Rec's doing now, but also for the incremental amount of work they're going to have to do in the community center.
I agree, Joe. Thank you. I think, we need to look into the future, and, adding space after the fact will be, impossible. So planning ahead and looking at what the future holds for the department and the needs of both the surf club and the community center, I think lend us to, having space there to hold additional staffing, or, when and if surf club becomes under construction, being able to house everybody in one spot it's important.
Yeah, I think to me, that's just the kind of clarity we're trying to get. I don't think during this meeting, we're trying to suggest cuts in any particular area. We're just trying to understand the needs so can make those judgments later.
Thank you. I have a two-part, two different questions, and you can take them in any order you want. Is there any, you talked about security and a single point of entry, which I don't think had been in any of the plans that I had seen. Are there any other security issues that you'd like to address? And it's kind of it's, to me, it's a related thing to me, but and the importance of the kitchen in any of your future plans.
So I think once this survey is complete, you will know more about the kitchen. But what I envision is using it for rentals of some of the rooms on that floor to provide catering abilities, cooking classes for adults and children, community kitchen space for folks who sell their goods at local farmers markets. I think having a commercial kitchen with all the necessary equipment in it. So I'll backtrack. So the senior center has a commercial kitchen, and we use it every day for lunch and Meals on Wheels. So I can't afford to have another group use that kitchen, and then we show up on Monday and it's a disaster or something's broken. So we have people ask us all the time, can we use the kitchen? Or, and I say no, because I can't risk not being able to provide 80 Meals on Wheels on Monday when someone wants to use it for a catering rental.
But it's also part of the contract of who's utilizing that kitchen too, right? That no other vendors can come in.
No, it's completely town run, so everybody is a town employee that
Oh,
uses it.
now it is now? Okay, because originally that was it. Okay. But that's not the envision for this kitchen space. This kitchen space is going to be more for the public use and for teaching and things like that.
Right. Yep. And we'll know more once the survey comes back and we get some responses. You know, we'll know, you know, what the community really wants. As far as security, you know, I'm not a security expert by any stretch, but I think having, you know, internal cameras and the ability for staff to monitor what's going on in the building will be important. But, you know, limiting where those cameras see is as equally as important as that. There'll be areas where we won't want cameras, and I think Scott Cochran will talk to that. Not want to put words in his mouth, but I think that would be a concern on his end. Yeah, I think I'm open for discussion from, you know, the experts in that area, as to, in terms of, you know, what's necessary and what works best. But I think that having one entrance helps maintain, you know, a level of security that staff would be. It's tough when people are entering from all different directions. You can't really keep track of who's in the building. That's just my opinion. You're on mute, Joe.
Joe, you're muted.
can see that. My computer tells me that. It does. I added word so it says, "Hey, dummy, you're on mute." Joan, you have your hand up.
Actually, AJ had it up first, so I'll let him go.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, thanks,
On
John.
my screen, you were first, but that's okay. AJ,
Yeah,
go ahead.
I just wanted to, one other idea, Austin, I wanted to inject here is when we do the survey for the utilization of the space, is there any way for us to get data on the other spaces the town has available to it? I'm thinking the library and the senior center right now. And if there's, you know, if we've got underutilized spaces there, you would probably be the best one to know. Can some of those needs be met there? And maybe we should be more specific in the way that we use the rooms in the community center, because right now the vision has a lot of general use rooms, and I think the whole committee wants to make sure that we're utilizing the space as effectively as possible. And we have a lot of general use rooms available in some other facilities. So if those aren't being utilized well now, we don't want to build more of the same types of things that aren't being utilized, if that makes sense.
Agreed. And I think you'll see once this survey comes out, that we've asked the right questions to make it, to get the answers that you're asking. So we don't have a music instruction area that we could do that in right now in any building. So sort of like a soundproof room with risers and you know, storage for musical instruments, that we don't have that. We don't have a place to do pottery and kiln work. We don't have that in any of our buildings now. What we do have is, you know, like you're saying, general community space for small meetings. So we host a lot at the senior center. We host a lot of community groups like Rotary and BNI and Women's Club, Garden Club. You know, every youth sports organization usually has their board meetings there, team meetings, film. We have AA in the building multiple times a week. So I mean, rooms like that we have, you know, on top of the library, what they have for community space. I think you're right though, AJ. I think this community center will provide a very specific kind of space. And, you know, outside of we just need a room for 10 people. This will be,
okay.
We'll have the ability now, you know, to learn what the community wants and sort of, you know, develop that space as we go along here. You know, it's tough. The senior center, you know, it's a big building, but the rooms are small. So really our biggest room there now is the cafe. And with tables and chairs, you could, you know, per fire marshal, 60 people. And, you know, there's programs that we can't run in the cafe because it's just not big enough. We don't have enough space. But if you have a 10-person board that you want to meet, we got you covered there. I think the library has you covered there too.
Yeah.
But the more specific activity space that we don't have is what the academy school will be for.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so I think that I just want to clarify that, because what was a design concept for referendum is not necessarily what is going to actually be built. We have architects that are going to be coming in, they're going to show their designs. We may not choose the architect who did the initial rendering for a concept piece, but your specific needs are 900 square feet near the main entrance to the building, wherever that ends up being, so to speak, the main entrance. And that's part of the piece I want you to be thinking about, because another architect could come in and completely do a different design that gets approved, but we want to make sure that your space needs to be near the main entrance of the building. That's the point, versus a specific corner, and all of a sudden the front ends up being on, you know, Meeting House Road instead for some reason, or Academy or whatever. So, okay, just want to clarify that piece a bit. Okay, thank you.
Agreed, thank you. Yep.
Austin, I'd like to thank you for your time here. I know it's been very informative for me. I hope it's been worth the time for the committee. For me, we're a lot closer to getting to finding out how we're going to run the building, what the building is going to be used for, than we were before we started this. The single point of entry, I think, is one of the things that, you know, that actually kind of floored me a little bit. I hadn't really considered that as one of the criteria that we're going to be using. So that actually does inform our design.
But do we need to have,
but
but I think we need multiple points for other uses in the building. So I don't think that it
No.
necessarily, I think there's a main entrance,
Yes.
but I think that there's other ones that will be wanting an entrance specific to their space and Scott's area and things like that. So, and I think, I'm not sure even legally you can just have one entrance and exit to a building. From a code standpoint, I think you have to.
we're not going to brick up the doors, but I think we said Austin was going to be near the main entrance of the building. Austin's area will be the main entrance of the building, because that is what that's what we need to design around. Now, there, like you said, the theater, the gym for a town meeting, there'll be other points that will have to be opened up under certain conditions. But day in, day out, people are going to come in and out one area, one set of doors.
Not
That's
necessarily if youth and family services are coming in through another separate space, is my point.
I guess we'll have Scott to opine on that in a couple of weeks.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm definitely on board with that too. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So for the main public entrance, we'd like to have a primary entrance, and maybe there might be another side, but for the most part, people come in through one door as much as possible.
Okay,
Hey, Joe, can I ask one last quick question?
go ahead. Go
Austin,
ahead.
I don't think you mentioned, when are the survey results due, or what's the closing date?
I think it was January 12th,
Okay.
I believe.
Okay.
I believe that's the date.
All right, then one other really quick question. From the original survey, I think you guys did like 3 or 4 years ago, whoever sent it out, probably not you. You know, revenue stream was kind of a big one from a bunch of the residents. So is that a question that's on this survey that's going out also?
No, this survey is strictly about room usage.
Okay, so not,
That's not part of the charge of the advisory committee to determine, you know, revenue stream and fees and such.
No, but like, I'm talking about space for possibly renting out to a coffee shop or a barber shop or something like that. That's not part of this.
No.
Okay. Thanks.
Again, thank you, Austin. I think we're going to move the discussion to the request for qualification proposal for the architectural and engineering services. So any of our people can from the staff who can hang on, but I think we're going to switch gears to the qualification and proposal for the architectural and engineering services.
Okay, you want me to
Yeah.
start?
Yes, and where are you? I guess what the question I have for you, where are you starting from, Mark? I have 4 copies of I have 4 different versions of this RFP in front of me already, and there's a 5th one that I think there's a 5th one that I haven't printed.
There's at least a 5th one, maybe a 6th one too, but that's okay. This is all part of the process. Well, let's
Okay.
just start with the high level. I issued earlier today updated schedules. So let's just talk about the schedule of the selection process. The first document I issued was a macro schedule, high level bar chart looking document that basically showed the architect selection process going through January of 2023, plus or minus a week or two on either end of that. But essentially it shows us going through December and into January, with design starting in earnest February of 2023 throughout the balance of the year. So, and I didn't change anything on the bidding or the construction durations at this point. So, so that's, just gives you a high level sense of where we are, from an overall schedule perspective. No major changes there. I then put together 2 milestone schedules, one that suggests a 1-step process, which is where you have qualifications and proposals coming in at the same time. And you review those, you shortlist to 3, 4, 5, however many you want to. Interview, come up with a conditional selection, maybe check references, get it to the board, get it adopted, and then move on. And that schedule is, labeled as the 1-step process. So essentially, we'd be issuing the RFQ/P, and Aaron, thank you for your comments. I did make all of those adjustments to the document. Essentially next Monday. And I did stretch out the time period so that there was more time for the designers to respond and react to what we were looking for. So we essentially, we get qualifications and proposals middle of December. We review, we shortlist, let's say during the holidays. We interview the middle of January. So they have a decent amount of time to respond to the RFQ/P, a decent amount of time to prepare an interview and a presentation. And then we essentially interview architects on the 18th, and we could make the selection then, or we could wait a week and do reference checks and things of that nature, and have a firm on board by the end of January. So that's the 1-step process. So again, it elongates the period to submit, elongates the period to prepare a presentation. And I think as a firm who responds to lots of RFQs and lots of RFPs, this is a pretty generous timeline. So when I put together the 2-step process, it really didn't change it all that much. It essentially added a couple of weeks. So what we would then do is issue the RFQ only. So just qualifications, no fees, no approach, nothing, just tell us what you've done in the past that mirrors a community center, a historic building, things of that nature. We would get the qualifications in early December. Again, it's an easier lift for the designers to get something to you all, because again, they're not preparing something new or something fresh, or just pulling together data that they have. We then review the qualifications on or about December 12th at your building committee meeting. We would then shortlist to receive the RFP, and that could be, again, 3, 4, 5 firms. Issue the RFP on December 13th. We would then get proposals back the second week of January. So they've got, a fair amount of time leading up to the holidays and a week and a half or so after the holidays. We would then review proposals on the 18th. Shortlist architects that night and interview a couple of weeks later on February 1st and make a conditional selection, on the 8th of February. So again, it really only adds a couple of weeks because we've given them a decent amount of time.
Hey,
So-
Mark, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, of course, Dave.
Do you want to continue first, and I'll ask her?
No, that's all I wanted to talk about in terms of the schedule. So if you have any questions about the schedule, happy to answer those questions.
Well, I just wanted to ask you, from your experience dealing with architects, are we really going to get a benefit by trying to split this out? Do you think that most of the architects that would submit on this would be qualified anyway? Are we just kind of adding another step to the process kind of unnecessarily?
Well, Dave, it's a good question. One of the things that some people will instinctively look at when they look at proposals / fees, sometimes people go to the fees before they really, embrace what's been submitted in terms of qualifications. What I mean by that, Dave, is, you ultimately want somebody that has experience with community centers, office spaces, historic buildings. But if you get proposals and fees from let's say 8 different firms, 9 different firms, you may get a rogue architect who doesn't have a lot of that experience, but goes in really, really lean. And I've seen people say, wow, that's a really good deal. We really should consider them. But now you're looking to hire somebody not necessarily based on qualifications, just based upon, a lower fee that may be attractive.
But we can leave the fee out of that, right? Out of that review, even if we got RFPs.
You could, as long as you're disciplined, to say, let's review, let's shortlist, and then let's look at fees, which is what I would strongly suggest we do. But you have to be disciplined to get to that shortlist and then open fees and make sure you're still comfortable with that. So if you see a rogue firm that may not have a lot of experience, could be a local firm, that may be, incentivized to help. But if we could hold off on looking at fees until after you've shortlisted, sure, you could do that. So there is a benefit to doing the 2-step process, because then again, you shortlist based upon quals only, and then you get proposals and fees from the 3, 4, or 5 that you want to really have proposals from. So
just from your and I experience, with these things, it just seems like I just don't want to be redundant, right? That they're all 8 of them are using the same engineer, and all 6 of them are using the same, sub-consultants, right? Which could potentially happen.
Yeah, it could. I don't know.
It's not bad.
No, it's not bad as long as they use good ones.
Right. But I think that we'd be able to, as a group, be able to pick those apart. I would think, right? And you're going to guide us along the way here because you deal with these individuals on a daily basis.
Yeah, we know that the 10 firms that are going to submit on this, we've seen them in other districts, other municipalities. So most of them are aware of this project. They've been following it closely. So it's And even though it's around the holidays, you know, again, a lot of this stuff, a lot of firms have a lot of this qualification stuff already relatively canned, you know, so the qualification portion shouldn't take that long to pull together. The proposal will take a little bit more time because, you know, you're trying to craft something specific and unique for the project.
And I believe Ann had her hand up.
Yeah, Mark pretty much answered the question. I wanted to get a sense of what he felt we would be likely to get in terms of number of responses.
Yeah, you'll get, I would say, and 8 to 12 to 13 would be my guess. So that's essentially this. Any other questions about the schedule? Again, we can go back and talk about the 1-step, 2-step later.
If I would like, if you want 1 minute, I think I would like to add that the schools use the 2-step process. So it is something that any of the architects who've been dealing with the town would be familiar with.
Yeah, and again, that's statutory. The school has to, because the state of Connecticut requires you can choose from no more than 4. And Eileen, Aaron, I'm sorry, I was looking at the document that you shared in terms of the agreement with the town, and I couldn't find anything in there that dictated state statute for designer selection. There were some other things that caught my attention in that document that maybe we can talk about offline.
Yeah. This is the 4 million?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was mostly the contractor language as far as that's what's important. And I think that should be included in our request. I would think that they have to at least consider that.
But that's what I want to get your interpretation on. So maybe we can talk tomorrow or something.
Sure.
About that.
And I think Aaron's point that whatever we end up with should go to town council for their approval because of the grant money, I agree with.
I'd hate to screw it up and then not get our million somewhere along.
Yeah, for a technicality.
Exactly.
I'd like to hold here and recognize Eileen.
I was just wondering, Mark, if you could give us an idea of, if we go with the RFQ first, how much do you think that will reduce the amount of people that end up replying to the, I'm not saying this very clearly, but instead of having 8 to 10 RFPs to look at, how many would we end up, how many would disqualify themselves just by replying to the RFQ?
You'll probably get a similar amount, Eileen. Okay. You know, again, we're going to keep the qualifications relatively loose in terms of, we're not requiring a minimum of 3 or 5 or so many community centers. We're saying, you know, tell us what you have for experience in renovating historic buildings. Tell us what you have for experience with community centers that have, you know, office spaces and other programming spaces. So you probably won't see too many, you know, less. A couple may say, you know, we're not even going to propose, because if their plan is to go in with a low fee to get you really, you know, curious about them, they're like, yeah, let's not even spend the time.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Mark, can I ask a follow-up? Because of the process, how it was drafted in this request with the 2 separate two separate sealed envelopes, is there an assumption, just by the way this is being worded, that the committee will likely look at qualifications and then look at
fees? There's language, Aaron, in there that says, you know, while fee may not be the driving factor for the selection, fee will be certainly considered. You know, and other municipalities will create a weighted structure where, you know, experience is worth 30%. And this is more in the proposal, not the qualifications, but experience is worth, you know, 30%. You know, approach is worth, you know, 30%. References are worth, you know, 15%. And fee is worth, let's say, 10%, right? And you factor in that weighted percentage for each of those. And again, the low fee doesn't always get the job. If you have a really super qualified firm, really great approach, great references, the fee may be high, but because it's weighted lower than the others, sometimes, you know, they still are deemed the lowest qualified bidder or the most qualified bidder. We don't have that here, which is why we want to keep it separate. And back to Dave's question of, holding the fees off to the side, letting people review the quals. If we were doing the one-step process, Aaron, let people review the quals and the approach and say, I really like this idea, I really like these qualifications. And then, we could then shortlist down to 4 and then say, okay, how are the fees? And then we could say, okay, well, these are the fees. And then let that dictate or help dictate, who ultimately gets shortlisted for the interview process.
Yeah, that's kind of the experience that I've had with an RFQ, RFP. If you go out, I guess in my experience with an RFQ is you're coming back, you're identifying your most qualified firm and then working with them for a proposal within a budget. And if it's in the odd chance that you don't come to some sort of agreement in the design and budget, then you step down to your next most qualified candidate. I haven't gone through this process like the 2-step where you do your quals and then you invite those finalists to submit proposals, I guess.
Right. Yeah, again, it's done 100% of the time for the public schools.
Right.
Were you involved, Aaron, with the school RFQ, RFP process?
No, I don't staff that committee, no.
Okay.
I mean, it makes sense. It's, I mean, they're very similar. We could essentially just extend out the time period a little bit to allow people more time for the qualifications and just have one request go out, right?
Right.
I mean, not time for the qualifications, but a little extra time for the proposals if we felt that was rushed, and then just approach it first looking at qualifications and then adding in the cost.
Mark, how should we make this decision? I mean, it doesn't seem like there's a significant difference between the two approaches. And I'll hold, if you hold that answer for a second. AJ put his hand up, I think, just maybe before I was talking or just as I was talking. So
Yeah, I
I'll
just wanted to,
recognize AJ here.
thanks, Joe. I wanted to make sure that I think, what I've heard a lot from this committee is that we want to optimize for the largest number of ideas come to the table and, be able to pick I think you're calling it the approach. I think the approach seems very valuable to this committee, and I would hate to disqualify someone that maybe has an approach that the committee would have really liked, but we didn't give them the opportunity to present that if we went through the 2-step process. I don't know if that would be the case. We would potentially lose some novel ideas that we didn't consider because, well, maybe they weren't the most qualified, but they came at this from an angle that the committee really could get behind. So I want to make sure that we're sort of optimizing for that because it seemed like it was a really big part of what was important to us in picking a design firm.
A good point. You would see less ideas. You'd see anywhere from 3 to 5 ideas versus potentially 10 or 12.
So that to me sort of leans me in that camp, sort of the simplified process, give us more breadth of ideas to pick from. I like the idea of separating the fees out so we don't just go with the low bidder. But give us an opportunity to sort of, not that we can't go through a 2-step process internally to sort of say, hey, all right, kind of like we did with, the project management aspect of this, where we said, okay, these firms are out, and we all sort of agreed very quickly firms that we weren't going to move forward with, and then we had a short list and move forward. We did that all internally, and I don't see why we couldn't do a similar thing here and kind of walk through and phase people out and then have a debate about the last couple that we wanted to bring forward for interviews.
I like AJ's approach. And for me, I'll give you my personal on this, the biggest thing for me was to extend the time, so we allowed adequate amount of time. And I think both approaches do that. So I'm not, I can go either way. I have no particular bias on which way to go, as long, because we've done the most important thing. We've given the time for the people who are going to bid to put the effort in to give us a qualified proposal, or a proposal that they can be, that they can stand behind.
I just want to remember, I have a hard stop at like 6:59 because I have to start another meeting myself at 7. So
On this issue, I think we can take a poll as opposed to a vote, because we'll vote on the end at the end for the whole thing at once. So we should be able to do a poll on which of the two approaches we should go with. Would that be? I don't think I need a motion for that. I think that's then we did that for the when we chose the project manager. Any objections to that? No. Okay. I think from the last poll, we realized that that I should probably go last. So we're not squeezing anyone. I'll start from here, and I have Anne. You have a preference?
The one-step approach. So
AJ,
just AJ's plan.
Same.
Joan.
I like my own plan. Yes.
Way to go, AJ. Joan,
I agree. One step.
Eileen. Agree. Dave.
One step, yeah.
Dave, you're muted. You there, Dave?
You may have had to step away.
Yeah. Well, my vote is the rest, like the rest of the committee. And we will use the one step approach with the one step timeline that you put together, Mark.
Okay, perfect. Good decision. Okay, so now in terms of the actual RFQ/P itself, it doesn't change too much. If we had gone to the RFQ, I would have to scrub out a lot of stuff. So I have issued a few of these, and I have made further updates based upon Aaron's review of the document. So why don't I share my screen if that's okay? This way we could at least look at the document together and just move some things around. Okay. Oh, Eileen, you have a question?
I'm just wondering if Joan, this is unrelated to you, Mark, if Jonas has to leave, can we discuss the schedule real quick? Because once she goes, we can't do that.
I have to unmute myself.
Is that schedule something, the schedule for our future? That's something that, is that decided or?
I'm pretty
And that-
flexible on the schedule, if I remember correctly. Not the schedule within this document. So it's the meeting schedule you were talking
Meeting
about.
Yeah.
schedule, correct.
Right. So should we,
Okay, I'm unmuted. I would like to defer that. That's if we can, because I think that's a longer discussion. But it is something that doesn't kick in until next year.
Yeah, but I have a Wednesday commitment that I have to change if we're going to switch to Wednesday meetings. And so we keep pushing this off. I don't want it to get pushed off too far because I need to rearrange things.
Jacqueline, you still on?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, Jacqueline put out two possible schedules. One was the same, the same day each month. And the other was like a Tuesday, Monday, Tuesday, or Tuesday, Wednesday. I would like to ask if Jacqueline, if you could send those out, and each of us maybe give Jacqueline a reply, not here in this, but it would also give us all a little more time to look at our calendars.
Okay, thank you.
Jacqueline?
Yep, that sounds good. The only thing I did want to say was this does need to get decided in December, preferably the earlier December meeting. Just because I'll have to post, and that's it. We just have to do that with the town. So I'll send something out, and then if everybody can just respond to me, that would be awesome.
Okay.
Okay. And thank you all. I do have to leave now. Sorry about that.
Bye, Joan.
But
Thank
we
you,
can,
Joan.
yeah. Thank
Bye,
you.
Joan.
Good job, guys.
Okay, so hopefully you can see my screen.
Yep.
Okay. So again, I went ahead and changed the RFP to include qualifications. So I added the qualifications, I added RFQ. I updated all of the dates in here. Looking for, there we go. Looking at Aaron's document on another screen here. I made some of your edits, Aaron, in terms of the last century reference and the project background. Under the project schedule, I edited the schedule to reference design starting in February of 2023 versus November of 2022. So that has been changed. These dates are in alignment with the document I issued earlier. The CM reference didn't change. Under the special requirements, I did add the word academy, Aaron, at your request, and I changed committees to boards at your request. I did add the comprehensive design services. I added the land surveyor reference to that section. I did change under the design team responsible for preparing and submitting all documentation to receive state and local permits. I added that revised language to include what you had for historic district commission approvals, planning and zoning. By the way, this will be reissued to you all tonight, so you can take another crack at it based upon your recommendation there. I did take out the deep requirements. I did edit the site survey in terms of them hiring the licensed surveyor for that work. Adding language regarding to the existing underground utilities and the digging of test pits that it's not required for, locating, but may be required for any proposed septic or stormwater location information. So that's in there now. Update the geotechnical boring information, making them responsible for coordinating the work. Added references in the traffic analysis that they do need to submit the traffic report to planning and zoning. And then I just added required, anything for OSTA. Not sure if anything will be, but we're just making sure that they've got it covered if for some reason they come knocking. Did strike out the deep general permit and discharge section, so that's out altogether. The town will look at the agreement, so that just moved up. Selection, just added academy. In terms of you had referenced the mechanical
Yeah, what is that?
So, yeah, this is the HVAC designer. So they're usually pretty important because, especially with a geothermal system, we're going to want to hear their thoughts approaching the geothermal design.
Okay.
You don't necessarily, I mean, if there was a big solar component to this or big electrical, maybe you want to hear from the electrical engineer. But when you're doing a geothermal system or proposing one, it's good to hear from the mechanical engineer just to hear their approach, their experience with geothermal. So that's why we include them typically.
Okay, so it's the mechanical engineer.
It's the mechanical engineer. Yeah, it's the mechanical.
Okay, I just didn't, I never heard of it as a designer, so I didn't know what I was missing.
Yeah, no, that's it. The one thing we talked about, we're getting any updates to this, to these bullets. Again, if you want to, change any of this, that's fine. If not, we can leave it. This is pretty typical stuff, what we typically see, but can certainly change that around. I did change.
I think my comment on that was only because we're talking about criteria that's going to be considered. And then in the following section, we're also talking about evaluation criteria. So I didn't know if, I didn't know if it should sort of be combined.
Yeah, this one's just the interview. Like when you come to interview, this is what we want. This is what's going to be important typically to clients. When it comes to making the decision, it's, fees are a role, experience, your performance in those experience, organization and team structure, approach. These are really kind of come from the interview, Aaron, typically. The rest is, comes from what's been submitted. But, again, I'm happy to make any edits, but this is a pretty standard, logistics and evaluation process. And then under the submission logistics, I did change this to Joe. Joe and I had a conversation earlier today, and that seemed to make a lot of sense. So what'll happen is Joe and I will meet at the town campus that day, and we'll get the documents, the zip drives, and we'll get them uploaded to a SharePoint site so you all have access to them. Peggy will probably get a hard copy, and then we'll just keep another hard copy and with Jacqueline, if somebody wants to come in and look at actual hard copies versus, going through the electronic process.
And Jacqueline, would that have to say care of you, like Joe Valentine, chair, care of Jacqueline? What the heck?
I think if anything, it should say Peggy or the first selectman's office. Right, Aaron, what do you think? Probably, right?
I would direct them at least to I would
Right.
include in there the first selectman's office, or
Yeah.
care of first selectman's office. So then at least whoever's doing the mail knows where it's going,
Yeah.
which room it's going to.
Yeah.
And
But I
if
think
somebody delivers it, you'd want to direct them, as opposed to Joe Valentine, they're gonna say, who's he?
Yeah, that might, yeah.
Okay. And then I don't think we made any changes here. Again, the contracts would be submitted to the town for their review. I didn't make all other changes to RFQ, RFP. I did change any addendum will be issued via a website publishing. And that was it. So,
Mark,
yeah, Aaron.
the insurance, so this criteria, or it shall be carried as required. I didn't see that, but I know, and I've talked to sometimes firms who have had to adjust their insurance to qualify for the town. And that's an additional expense to them. So that when this goes to for review from Kerma or our attorney, you'll send that addendum over as well.
Yeah, the B102 that has the insurance requirements will be in there, and they can edit it as necessary.
Yeah, okay, perfect.
Okay. Questions?
Aaron, what I believe the next step is we send it to the town. Who do we send it to? Essentially, we recommended that it goes to the next level of review.
Sure, if you're, make any comments that you have as a committee, if you have any further edits, and then we'll, finalize the final version, and then be able to forward that to our attorney, and yeah, so either through Bill or myself or Jacqueline, either way.
AJ?
Yeah, Mark, the conversation we were having earlier about the consideration of the fields, you had mentioned that may need to be put into this document.
Yeah,
Is that-
so I did add a little, thank you, AJ, for reminding me. I did add under the project description a line that says, if required due to parking or traffic circulation, the fields may need to be relocated or reoriented, just to kind of cover ourselves in the event
Okay.
that, there's a cause and effect going on here. That's covered, and that'll certainly be covered at the pre-bid walkthrough.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
And Eileen?
Are we going to do all of the interviews on January 18th? I mean, I know with the OPM, we did them over 2 different days. The schedule says they're going to happen on January 18th. I just didn't know if that's really the plan.
It's tentative at this point.
Okay.
If the committee decides they want to do it over 2 days, we can do that too.
Okay.
But they would have to commence on the 18th, and presumably we'd have to go to the 19th once we publish that schedule.
Correct. Yeah, you definitely want to have it the next night. You don't want to wait a week or because then you'll forget what you heard from the first couple of firms. It is best, in my opinion, to do it all in one day. I mean, I know it's an exhausting period. If you do 3 or 4, I get it's a 4-hour period, but at least you're over and done with. You can deliberate. It's kind of fresh, that night. But again, it's up to you. We've seen it done both ways.
Do you think it's enough to give, I mean, aside from Thanksgiving week, which is a short week, do you think 3 weeks is enough for if you're looking for people to provide proposals?
So
Or do you think it should, or do you think we should give them to the 23rd?
So we have,
Because
we're issuing
we have it
it-
as the 19th, right, as the deadline?
so we issue it on the 21st, let's say. So they have the 21, 2, 3. They have 4 weeks to respond. 4 full weeks.
Well, the week of the 21st is Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
I'm
so
just,
that's a short week.
right.
Again, I can move it out.
Why don't, I mean, this has to go through legal and some other steps, I imagine some other steps too. And maybe that's something that we would look at once we get the real firm date that we can put it out. If we can publish it on the 21st, I agree with Aaron that it might, an extra week might be a good idea here, if we're going with the one step. But we may not get this out till some later period, depending on what the legal does.
Yeah, I don't know how much that extra week is gonna buy us, because the week we're giving them is like the week of Christmas.
The
So
week before, I know, it's a
Right.
terrible
Yeah.
time of year.
it's like, here's a
Yeah,
week that
that's true.
a lot of people are
Yeah.
gonna be on vacation, thanks.
Yeah,
I think most people will work, up until that Thursday, to Wednesday anyways, maybe half day Wednesday. And then knowing that they've got another, 2 weeks after that will certainly help. Again, the firms that typically respond to this type of project, Aaron, the qualifications are quick,
No, it's more the proposal.
yeah,
that
I hear you.
not
The
the
concepts there, I worked for an architectural firm for a bunch of years. These architects don't take time off. They're always working and thinking and sketching, and you know what I mean? That's just That's just
Yeah.
how they're wired.
I don't, maybe it was more of the perception of making it seem really short. I don't know, or shorter, not really short, but I don't know. I'll defer to all of you. I just figured I'd ask the question.
We can always extend it too, by the way, via addendum if it feels like some of the firms, the feedback is, hey, we could really use a little more time. You know, we can always extend it.
Do they ever do that?
But yeah,
Do the firms?
oh yeah. Yeah, if you know, well, listen, if there's a massive snowstorm, you know, that shuts down, that kills power for days, you know, there's so many things that doesn't happen all the time, but we've got some flexibility. That's the best. We have flexibility with the schedule. Again, we can move it out 2 weeks and really not lose a lot on the back end. Unlike a school where you have an aggressive timeline and you got to get in by September, you know, there's definitely some flexibility with the schedule.
How does this work that, I guess, to follow up your question, Joe, when in sending this, we need a consensus from the committee before it's sent over to legal or, you know, insurance to review that. So do we wait till the next meeting, or are you hoping to have action this evening?
Yeah, I'm
When some of
hoping
these
that,
changes
you know, if
are-
there are any edits, you know, we can make the edits and get this to them sooner than later, or you can do it concurrently, you know, so as you're reviewing it one last time, have legal take a look at it as well to make sure that they don't see anything in here, you know, and then if we can get, you know, a consensus back from the committee and legal and risk at the same time, then we can get it out shortly thereafter.
Yeah, I would think that we, if we can get a consensus to send it to the next step. And then if we need to get if there are significant, well, we could make another review at some point in the future. Even if it were a special meeting, to be sure we had one last look at it. If we recommend it to go ahead as it is, and it comes out at the other end without any edits, except in the insurance or the liability clauses, we could go ahead. If there were change, for instance, if there were some massive changes to, you know, somewhere in the document, I think we'd have to have a special meeting and give it another review and then another look and then another vote. But I think what we'd like to do tonight is just move it on to the next step and then continue the review process, and if necessary, approve it at some future time. The one thing I'm concerned about is not so much that process, but the public opinion of this. If we are going to approve this document today to go forward, this is the public meeting, this is the public notice of it. If the document is different when it comes out at the other end, we might be required to do another meeting just to make sure that the public notice is for the document that goes out, as opposed to the document that was reviewed and then changed. Does that make sense? I didn't get a lot of nods on that one.
I don't think I'm following you, but
This is, we are going to approve this document right here. The one, this one. This is the one that Mark has sent. That's the one the public will see, because this is part of the public meeting. Matter of fact, they won't even see that because that won't be attached to this meeting. So that's why I think we're going to have another meeting to approve post the document and then approve it. Now I'll defer to people at the town who might think that that's not necessary. Then it's not necessary.
Yeah,
But-
typically, Joey, I don't see RFQs or RFPs attached to meeting minutes as part of public documents. Usually it's the minutes will say RFP will be issued and then it's issued. I haven't.
That's right, because it wouldn't be attached to a
Right,
contract,
right.
to a document. It wouldn't, because that would be like releasing the RFQ, RFP before it goes out, before
Right.
the time is due.
Right.
So maybe I'm worried about nothing.
Bill, you
Bill,
had
you
your hand up?
So, yeah,
Yes. Yeah, I think it's the committee's job to put the RFP out. The public gets to see it once you submit it to the public and they can respond. I don't think you need to have them, micro
Right.
review it. So
Right,
I understand your concern and I think it's legit, but I don't think it's necessary.
Okay, fine.
I think along those lines, you can also, the base of the, in the request is pretty whole, how you have reviewed it. And then you can move it forward pending approval from, legal and insurance. So I think, yeah, again, I don't know how much of that is, and did you go through that in the OPM process of reviewing after a legal
No.
review?
No.
No.
I did. I looked at it after legal review and nothing had changed. But that kind of brings up an interesting point. I mean, if there's an architect listening in today or pulls this up on on YouTube, they'll be able to see and hear much of what we said today. I never thought about that until you just mentioned that. So it's they get a preview into what our thoughts were.
That happens all the time, Joe, just so you know.
Okay.
I was gonna say, it's what our YouTube videos are.
I know. That's why our YouTube videos are so popular among architects.
I've gone to many building committee meetings before they even thought about hiring an OPM.
That's not a bad thing.
No, well,
I
not,
guess
not
not.
our
I
business.
guess not.
That's doing your
I asked for-
homework.
when I took this position, I asked about executive session. And they said, well, not usually for committees, that's usually personnel matters. So it's like, well, whatever. Somebody wants to watch this, spend their time watching this on YouTube, I guess, they'll get a peek into what we're doing and what we're thinking. I'd like maybe, I guess I could request a motion from the committee that we move this forward to the next step, which is a review by town by town, I would say employees.
Council.
I don't want to limit myself to legal. It's it moves on to the next step of the next review process.
I move that we move this to the legal counsel.
Second,
I second.
any discussion? Anybody have any additions or comments before we take a vote? All in favor, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4.
I approve it too.
Okay,
Joe.
that's 5. And Joan's not here, it's 6. Am I miscounting somebody? Did I miss somebody?
The other Joe is not
Oh,
here.
that's right, Joe's not here. But he actually gave me an email that said that he approves it to move it forward also. Okay, motion passed. So we move the document that Mark will be finishing up and send to the committee and to and to Jacqueline so that we can move it forward through the review process.
I'll send it to you all after this meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item, discuss and approve 2023 meeting schedule. I would like to have that done via a consensus vote that we send that Jacqueline sends that out and that we all reply within 1 week, and that we make a decision from there, and we go forward. And if it's and we were asking the members of the committee to make the necessary adjustments in their schedule so that they can attend the meetings on a regular basis. Do I get a motion for that?
So moved.
Second. Eileen, are there any other discussions? Any other? All in favor, raise your hand. Dave?
I raised my hand.
Okay, so it's, so Joe and Joe Paradiso did not vote for that, so that Joe and Joan would be left off the approval, but other than that, 5 members voted to move forward in that way. Are there any other comments? Is there anyone, Jacqueline, is there anyone from the public still on?
No one from the public.
Okay, so there'll be no further public comment. So as a chair, I'll move that we adjourn with, unless there are any objections. No objections, meeting adjourned. And thank you everyone for your participation.
There you go.
Have a great night, everyone.
Good night,
Have a good
everyone.
Thanksgiving, buddy.
Take care.
See you.